In 1965, the hallways of Caltech were home to some of the most advanced physics research on the planet. Older colleagues often gathered to watch Richard Feynman write out complex problems from scratch. He used no notes or reference books, pulling equations he had read decades earlier straight from memory with ruthless precision. Feynman lacked a photographic memory and scored no higher on IQ tests than the colleagues seated around him. During a teaching stint at the University of Sao Paulo, Feynman observed students who could recite entire textbooks by heart, but failed to apply the laws to the real world. He called this fragile knowledge, facts that live in the head but shatter the moment they are put under pressure. Modern learning often mirrors this illusion. We consume documentaries and books, yet find ourselves unable to recall basic details a week later, because the brain is wired to prioritize information it has to produce over information it merely consumes. Feynman avoided this trap by engineering his memory around 3 specific cognitive mechanics that force information to stick. Passive repetition, like rereading or highlighting, rarely registers in long-term storage because the brain tends to ignore what comes easily. To create the necessary resistance for learning, Feynman kept a notebook of things I don't know. He used it to actively hunt for confusion and map out concepts that didn't yet click. He perfected this through the blank page test. He would close his textbook, take a blank sheet of paper, and attempt to rebuild a complex concept from the ground up, using only his own logic. The blank page exposes where true knowledge ends and bluffing begins. This active retrieval works. A 2011 Purdue study found students writing from memory retained 50% of material a week later, compared to 30% for those who reread. Memory operates exactly like a muscle. It strengthens through the resistance of having to work for the information. Isolated facts often hit the brain and roll away because they lack a conceptual shelf to sit on. Feynman anchored new information by maintaining a mental list of 12 favorite problems, a set of personal obsessions he carried with him at all times. This utilizes a process called elaborative encoding, where the brain holds on to new facts longer because it can connect them to an existing interest. When a new statistic or quote arrives, it is immediately tested against those 12 problems. If it helps crack one open, it is slotted into long-term memory instantly. Establishing a pre-existing curiosity provides the necessary architecture to capture the daily barrage of new information. Meaningful memory requires a chemical glue like dopamine. Without a sense of curiosity or amusement, the brain struggles to hold on to information for long. Retention significantly increases when you anticipate having to teach a topic. This expectation primes the brain for output, as demonstrated in studies at Washington University. Feynman applied this by translating complex jargon into plain English. He would explain concepts as if teaching a 12-year-old, stripping away academic dressing to find the core idea. In the late 1940s, a student in the Cornell cafeteria tossed a dinner plate high into the air. Feynman noticed the plate wobbled at a different rate than it rotated and began calculating the math of the motion purely for his own amusement. That calculation, born from purposeless play, eventually led to the work that won him the Nobel Prize in physics. Treating complex subjects as puzzles to be played with floods the brain with the precise chemicals needed to wire them into deep storage. The cognitive fog many people describe after age 40 often correlates with a shift in behavior, specifically a decline in the raw curiosity and playfulness of youth. Adulthood often brings a desire to appear smart, leading many to choose polished summaries over the messy friction of admitting what they don't yet understand. Tonight, ignore the sense of duty. Grab a cheap notebook, write down a problem you genuinely care about, and try to explain it aloud in the simplest terms possible. Turning a fleeting thought into a permanent memory starts with the permission to be a curious beginner again.